Hello and welcome back. It's Chef Erin and I'm here to talk about our recipe for the day today, freshly made tomato sauce. Now, I make this all year long. Granted, I live in Florida and I get lots of fresh produce. So if you don't have this, I will be following up with how to jar this later on. But fresh tomato sauce has got to be one of my favorite parts of childhood. Growing up with my grandparents, working out in the garden, and then learning how to take that inside and how to make something delicious with it. Which, you know, as a child, always really mystified me because it was like, how do they get the tomatoes in the can, and how do they get it to taste so good? And I'll remember the day where my grandfather put a pot of, tomato sauce made from like a jar to tomato sauce made from some cans and tomato sauce made from the tomatoes in our garden. And I can tell you, I never went back. And so much so that we used to pick on my mother anytime she would embellish or she'd be short on tomato sauce and she'd put some from a jar in it. Life was never the same. She might not have enjoyed it, but we definitely did. So I'm joining along today as I take some really ugly, what normal people might throw away tomatoes and turn them into a beautiful mother sauce. Mother sauces, there are 5 of them. They each represent a different aspect of cooking, whether it be an animal protein, a vegetable, or a cream base, and we use them regularly to add to our meals or to create something specific. My favorite being marinara, and in this particular recipe, I'm going to show you what I keep in my freezer when I need to make a quick meal or something delicious. Hope you enjoy. So once we've washed all of the tomatoes, we're actually going to get to the process where we're going to scar the bottom and remove all of the blemish parts. So scarring the bottom means we're going to take the point of the tomato where it was not attached to the plant, and we're going to create an X. What this does is it allows you to have a peeling point that is much easier than just, say, leaving it as is and waiting for it to bubble off. Once you've done that, you're going to put the tomato in the boiling water for maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And when you are done, you're going to pick it up and put it in the ice water bath. Now, here's the thing about scarring your tomatoes and any blemishes. We are going to cut the blemishes off, the whole portion, and ensure that there's no rotted part on the inside of the tomato. And then again, scar the bottom or side, because just as we have created a flat space to remove the skin from, the scarring still gives you an easier point in which to peel off the skin. Now you also notice here I am leaving my tomatoes in the water a bit longer because some of my tomatoes are not as ripe as others, and so the longer you leave it in there with the skin on, the softer this flesh will become. Just a little trick from me to you. Now that we've removed all the blemishes and scarred our tomatoes, it's time to take off the skin and get rid of the seeds. So this is where the trash barrel becomes really handy. I actually even raise it up sometimes so it's more at my counter level because this is the messy part. Peeling the skins off comes off really quickly. The flesh underneath of it at this point is softened, so you should be able to peel everything really well. And then you're going to use your fingers to get into the pockets where the seeds are and remove them with your fingers. A lot of the times, most tomatoes, it'll come out fairly easily. You don't have to remove the stem area unless it's really hard, but you do want to take your time to get rid of those seeds. It's important to remove the seeds from a tomato sauce because the seeds themselves make the sauce a little bit bitter. They do affect the acidity, the bitterness, and the taste of your tomato sauce. Doesn't mean you remove all seeds, Absolutely not, unless you want to be that anal retentive, in which case, props to you. And for the rest of us, I get as many out as I humanly can. And then I slice up the tomato, making sure that I remove the stem attachment to the tomato and sometimes the part underneath of that, as it tends to be really hard and will not cook down. So you can go ahead and remove all of the seeds, the skins, chop it up really fine, and we're going to get it into a side bowl that we are using to hold all of our chopped tomatoes as we get ready to make this tomato sauce. And now it is time to get ready for our mother sauce. In the beginning of this sauce, a traditional marinara is generally made with onions and an oregano base. And today I am making mine with a onion and garlic base, because garlic is more in my family tradition. So feel free to use whatever one you want. But as you can see, I'm chopping them up pretty fine. I will be mincing the garlic here. But I am going to fill the bottom of my pan that's on about medium high so that these items can brown really well. If you have any open spots where the olive oil is not surrounding the bottom of the pan, you can get some browning or burning of these items. I start with the onions first because I do want to soften them a little bit. They do take a little bit more to open up than the garlic. And garlic, once it is sauteing, if it browns, it starts to become bitter. A fresh tomato sauce, these tomatoes that we're going to be using are very delicate in their flavor profile, as they have not been jarred or canned in any way. So you really don't want to let your garlic come to a point where it browns. But do take the time to finely mince it up. This way you don't have any huge chunks of garlic or onion competing with your tomato sauce. I am not going to be pureeing any part of the tomato sauce overall. I do enjoy it when I have a nice chunky, meaty tomato sauce, and I thicken it later on depending on how I'm going to be using it in your dish. So as you can see, I've moved the onions around a little bit to make sure that they're equally cooking. My olive oil is beautifully covering the bottom of my pan. I've minced up my garlic, and I'm going to toss my garlic in. Now, as you're going, we are going to be using the tomatoes and the chicken broth to create our sauce here. And we are frying things in oil. So as you add either the broth first or tomatoes first, rather up to you, just be careful you don't want to splash the oil on you. So pour away from yourself so that it doesn't splash towards you. If you feel like you're comfortable starting with the tomatoes first, you can put the tomatoes in. If you're comfortable starting with the broth first, start the broth. Either way, it's completely up to you, chef's choice. Once you've added the liquid and the tomatoes, now we have to boil it down and allow some of the extra juices that were in the tomato flesh to evaporate. It definitely condenses the flavor profile of your tomato sauce, how long you cook it down. Just take the time to stir it occasionally though, because as the tomatoes begin to really cook and release their fluids, they will sink to the bottom. And if you're up too high on a rolling boil, they will burn to the bottom of your pan. So if you want to take the time to bring the temperature of the pan down to more of a medium heat. I usually wait till the tomato has cooked down to an inch from the original start point when I added the tomatoes and broth to ensure that I'm getting a great flavor profile before I go and add seasonings. And now, an inch later from the top of the pan that we restarted, I am ready to put some seasonings together. I am all about fresh herbs. I have gone to my local produce place and I am right now destemming oregano, and then I will be destemming some basil. So let's talk about the oregano first. I'm putting it into my blender because I am going to use some of the tomato sauce to puree that. If you want, you can use leftover stock that you have if you don't want to use, or if you don't have a lot of tomato, or you just don't want to puree any of your tomato. However that works for you. With the oregano, I do destem it because the thicker part of the oregano stalk is very fibrous and it will not puree very well, and then you'll get stringy bits in your tomato sauce. So if you have the softer textured flesh on the top of the oregano stem, you can use that, but I do highly recommend that you zip down your fingers from the top of the stem to get the leaves off of it. With the basil, however, as long as you're taking the, again, softest, fleshiest part of the fiber stalk and the leaves, you can puree those. They do puree down really well. and they do add a lot of flavor to your sauce. So however that works for you, magnifico. When you are done, I am going to ladle in some of the tomatoes. I'm going to hit liquefy because a lot of people don't like huge chunks of green stuff in their sauce. That would be my household. Now, granted, I personally don't care because I'm going to eat it all anyway. But if you do have a picky household like I have, then you are going to want to hit liquefy and pour this back into the pot. And again, let the pot boil for another inch or half an inch from that point of the stock pot, so that again, you're condensing down the flavor. You're adding a bunch of flavor from there. You can also start adding your salt and pepper. I like a little bit of powdered cayenne powder. I enjoy sage sometimes. I enjoy really kind of any mixture that you want to add to this base. Because I do make my tomato sauces fresh and as a base sauce, I will be packaging this later and freezing it in smaller portions. So I'm not going to heavily season it because later on I might add to it or subtract to it, or I might make a meatloaf. So definitely stay tuned for my chicken meatloaf. But really it's up to you. If you're going to be serving this tonight, use as much seasoning as you want, bring it up to the perfect flavor profile, however you would like, and then get ready to serve a fabulous fresh meal. So as you can see, making fresh tomato sauce is not that hard. It does take a little bit of time, so leave yourself some space in the day, maybe do some laundry while you're doing this. But fresh tomato sauce is one of my absolute must-haves in any kitchen that I go to. It's actually the thing I use to christen my kitchens every time I reach a new kitchen. So take your time, figure out what you and your family like in their tomato sauce and how you prefer to use it the best. From now until then, my friends, so much light, so much love. Enjoy! Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope that it has brought so much happiness and tastiness into your lives and homes. And with that said, subscribe to this channel so that you can follow along as I adventure in our RV and throughout the many kitchens that I get invited to, bringing you farm to table yummy goodness and healthy and inspiring ideas. Also like this video so that you can have it in your repertoire to share it with your friends and other family members who might find it valuable, and ring that bell so that you get notified about when there is more to come. From now until then, my friends, so much light, so much love, so much food. Have a great day.